Welcome to WHMIS Training for your employment at Purnell Energy Services. Our goal is to provide you with the relevant WHMIS information as it relates to your employment with us. Your worksite may have products that can be hazardous to your health. How will you know what the hazards are? How will you work safely with hazardous products? What would you do if there was an emergency? Where would you get more information about hazardous products? These answers can be found within the WHMIS program. WHMIS stands for Workplace Hazardous Material Information System. It is a comprehensive system for providing health and safety information on hazardous products intended for use, handling, and storage in Canadian workplaces. WHMIS is a Canada-wide program first introduced in 1988 to protect workers from harmful products. In 2015, it was revised to align with the Global Harmonization System of Classification and Labeling Chemicals, or otherwise known as GHS. Whether you work directly with hazardous products or simply around hazardous products, you will require WHMIS training. Note that some hazardous products may not be covered under the WHMIS program, but they can still be harmful to you. These include products like explosives, fertilizer, pesticides, as well as other consumer products. Some commonly used products at Purnell Energy Services are things like gasoline, diesel fuel, propane, aerosol paints, various lubricants, industrial paint, various heavy-duty cleaners, thread sealant, and solvents. So how are products classified? WHMIS 2015 uses hazard groups, classes, and categories. Let's start with the hazard groups. There are two hazard groups: physical hazards and health hazards. Within these two groups, products with similar properties are grouped together into classes. Some physical hazards are corrosive to metals, organic peroxides, and simple asphyxiants. Examples of health hazards are reproductive toxicity, respiratory, or skin sensitization. These classes are further divided into categories that are assigned a number or sometimes a letter. The category tells you how hazardous a product is. For instance, a category 2A is more hazardous than a category 2B or a category 1. Here we can see that diesel fuel appears both under the physical and health hazard groups. It is classed as combustible or a flammable liquid under the physical group and an irritant under the health group. As a flammable liquid, it is a category 2, and as an irritant, it is a category 1. This is a quick way for you to assess the relative danger of any hazardous product. Besides groups and classes, WHMIS uses three other methods to identify hazardous products: pictograms, signal words, and warning statements. Pictograms are symbols that graphically identify a product. There are two signal words: danger and warning. Danger is used for more severe hazards, and warning is used for a lower risk hazard. Hazard statements are standardized phrases used to describe a product hazard. Here are a few examples. Extremely flammable, causes eye irritation, may cause cancer. Let's move on and have a look at supplier labels. WHMIS 2015 uses labels and information sheets called safety data sheets. to provide you with the information that you need to safely handle various hazardous products. It is up to you to read and understand the labels and safety data sheets, follow the safe job procedures, and report unsafe situations in order to keep you and your coworkers safe. Every hazardous product that comes into the workplace is required to have a WHMIS label from the supplier or the Canadian importer. If the product has been transferred from its original container after delivery to the worksite, it will need either the original supplier label or the worksite label. If the supplier label is missing, damaged, or perhaps unreadable, a new supplier or worksite label must be attached immediately. The supplier label looks like this and must contain the following 6 pieces of information. 1. The product identifier, which is the brand name, generic name, or trade name of the hazardous product. 2. 1 or more pictograms. These are hazards displayed as images within a red square set on one of its points. 3. A signal word, which will alert the reader to a potential hazard and indicate the severity of the hazard. 4. 1 or more hazard statements. These are standardized phrases which describe the hazard posed by the product. 5. 1 or more precautionary statements, which are standardized phrases which describe measures to be taken when handling the product to minimize or eliminate adverse effects. 6. The initial supplier identifier. This shows the name, address, and telephone number of either the Canadian manufacturer or the importer. It is important to be able to identify the pictograms on the label and understand the precautionary signal words and statements before handling any hazardous product. Worksite labels. A worksite label usually contains less information than a supplier label and can look like this. A worksite label must contain the name of the product, precautionary statement, and a reference to the SDS or safety data sheet. It may or may not include pictograms. While we recommend that you always use a worksite label, there are 2 situations in which it may not be required. One is when you have transferred some of the product to a disposable container that will only be used by one person on one shift. Another situation is when the product will be used immediately. In both cases, the temporary container must still contain the name of the product. Let's take a closer look at some pictograms. WHMIS 2015 supplier labels are marked with pictograms, which are images to indicate the hazards associated with each product. Gas cylinder, compressed gas. Flame, flammable material or fire hazards. Flame over circle, oxidizing material. Exploding bomb, explosive or highly reactive substances. Skull and crossbones, harmful or fatal substances that can cause death or toxicity in small amounts with short exposure time. Biohazardous infectious material, may cause disease in animals or humans. Note, not in a red square, rather a black circle. Corrosion, can damage metal and cause irritation to skin and eyes. Health hazard, products that may cause or be suspected of causing serious health effects. Exclamation, similar to health hazard, indicating harmful products that generally cause serious health effects. Lastly, environment, although not used in 2015, but still on some supplier labels and safety data sheets, can be harmful substances for the environment or aquatic life. Safety data sheets. As mentioned, safety data sheets, or an SDS, must come from the supplier with every hazardous product, and it is the employer's responsibility to ensure that these are readily available to all workers. Safety data sheets for any product at Purnell Energy can be found in the tool crib at the main office, as well as your site-specific drop trailers. SDSs are divided into 16 sections, but suppliers are not required to include information in sections 12 to 15, so these may be blank. The section headings are Identification, Hazard Identification, Composition, Information on Ingredients, First Aid Measures, Firefighting Measures, Accidental Release Measures, Handling and Storage, Exposure Controls, Personal Protection, Physical and Chemical Properties, Stability and Reactivity, Toxicological Information, Ecological Information, Disposal Considerations, Transport Information, Regulatory Information, Other Information. All combined, this information will help you decide what hazards you face, how to handle the product safely, and what you should do in the case of an emergency, and where you can find more information about hazardous products. If you have any doubt about a hazardous product, make sure to ask questions, look at the label carefully, and research the SDS. Your health and safety and that of your coworkers depend on it. This concludes the video portion of your WHMIS training. Please proceed with the WHMIS quiz. Thank you.